You are now entering the box. Welcome back to Inside the Box. Today I have a guest. I'm excited to announce Calvin Stovall, Chief Experience Officer with Iconic Presentations, fresh off the stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Calvin just did a keynote for us at our CILCSA event, which was awesome. I think a lot of people really liked that. I got tons of great compliments leaving. Everyone's like, man, that was one of your best ones.
Oh, I like when that happens.
I was like, you must not have saw him last time.
Yeah, it was great. I love talking to people that are passionate about customer experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to have the right people in the room with the right mindset. It was great. It was great.
Well, little fun fact. So your last time you joined us back in 2021, I think 2021. It was right at the end of COVID. It was 2020 or 21.
I think it was, somewhere
2020. Yeah, it was right at the end of COVID. We were all spread out. But that was my first time going to a CILCSA event.
Oh, you were there.
So you helped get me hooked on CILCSA.
Oh, wow. That's cool, man. Yeah, that was a very different environment than we're dealing with now. Yeah, that was... Yeah, people were a little on edge.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I know. Even the group was like a little worried about putting it on. It was kind of a thing, like preparing for it.
Yeah, I'm glad they moved forward with it because because that was a challenging time for folks. So it was good to be able to help inspire some folks.
No, it was great. I loved that. And again, that was kind of one of the things that got me hooked on CILCSA and started helping them with videos. And we did a video at that event actually.
Oh, that's great.
And then eventually I was on the advisory board and they asked me to join the board. So,
oh, wow. Okay. That all worked out well for you.
Yeah. Well, and I've been on a lot of boards. It always comes down to a time thing. We were talking about that earlier. That's and I feel bad. So I'm like, I know, why people ask me to join a board. They want help with marketing, stuff like that. And, it's a lot. I've had to quit a lot of boards. So I'm like, I'm just not giving you what you need. I know that. I don't want to fill up a seat. But it's been a lot different with them because it is like, I really love it. I love that group. I love all the different speakers we get. It's just very different than a lot of the groups I've been part of.
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with CILCSA. The people there are just so passionate and just welcoming. Yeah. And the hospitality that you just feel.
They do a great job. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from them.
They do a great job. Yeah.
So you're from Illinois, Chicago.
Yes, sir. I am a Chi-Town boy through and through. I was born and raised there. I live in North Carolina now in an area called Morrisville, a fast-growing area called Morrisville. But, I grew up in Chicago on the north side. I grew up in Cabrini Green Housing Projects on the north side, and then moved to the south side as well, right off 79th Street. And so, but I love Chicago, man. Yeah. That's my spot.
Yeah, cities are they have like an energy to them. That I don't think I could do it now.
Yeah,
especially with kids. But like I kind of wish I would have when I was younger for a little while or something. There's just like a weird energy when you're there. My sister lived up there for like 10 years, so I'd go visit her. Yeah, and it was always fun, just exploring the city and going around. And it was always just felt kind of energetic. I guess.
But you know what I can't do there anymore? The weather.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it gets cold up there, man. Yeah.
I'm not doing it anymore. I can't handle it anymore, man.
Yeah, non-winter visits.
Yes, sir. We were there. I have two teenage boys, and I took them up there for the Thanksgiving holiday to see, because I still have family there, of course. And teenagers, I love them to death, but they don't. Sometimes they just don't listen, And I was telling them, because it was the first time they'd ever gone to Chicago in the winter. So it was Thanksgiving, and I was telling them, I was like, guys, you got to make sure you layer your clothes. If we need to go get a coat, if we need to go get, and they were like, Dad, we got this. We ain't man. Yeah. So the one day we got there, and I think that next morning, we were going out to go eat and stuff, and some casual dining, and they come out. They had on, one of my sons particularly, my oldest son, Caden, he had on sweatpants and some flip-flops with some socks on and a little jacket. And I said, son, you're not going to be able to do this. And he's like, "Oh, Dad, I don't think it's as cold as you think. You know, you don't know, man. We got 2 blocks."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Dad, I think I got to go back. I got to go." I was like, I told
Hey, well, it's
you.
not just teenagers.
I told you.
My 2-year-old daughter thinks she knows what to wear all the time, and she's coming downstairs in a dress when it's 30 degrees outside. I'm like, you're gonna need something different than that. For 3-year-olds.
It's so funny, so funny.
But yeah, no, it's funny with kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my kids are young. Actually, I said 3, 4 on them. Losing my mind. My son's 6. My daughter's 4, and my other son's 2. So we're
2, 4, 6.
Yeah. At one point, we had 3 and under. So we're right in the thick of it.
Oh my God! But that's a fun time. But it's busy.
It is. Yeah.
It's
a
busy.
lot.
That's congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. No, they. It's weird how things kind of change. Your perspective on things change when you have kids.
Yeah.
Like starting this business, I used to work 12, 14 hours a day, and now I'm like trying to optimize my day to get home and be there with them, at night, because there's only a couple hours before they have to go to bed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Family
so
first, man. Yeah. Family first.
So let's run back a little bit. So you were in Chicago. What ended up taking you out of Chicago? Just a decision to leave, or a job?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a job. I went to undergrad at Chicago State.
Nice.
Right off on 95th, and right after that, I ended up going to Cornell in Ithaca, New York.
Okay.
Cornell Hotel School, and so I ended up getting hired by what is now Hilton, but it used to be called Promise Companies. It was Promise
I didn't
Companies.
know that.
Yeah, it used to be Promise Companies. Promus was how it was spelled, and they only had they had Embassy Suites, Hampton Inn. I think Homewood was with them, and then they owned Harris Casinos as well.
Really?
At the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I came in as what they had called a president's associate, and basically you go through a fast track kind of management program, and I ended up moving. They placed me as an assistant general manager at a Embassy Suites in Memphis, Tennessee. Talk about culture shock.
Yeah.
Going from Chicago to Memphis. Very different, but I'm glad I did, because I love Memphis for the culture, part of the music.
Because you love music, right?
Love music,
yeah.
all of that. It's weird how stuff comes full circle. So I worked there, and pretty much a lot of my hospitality career, mostly. But that's how I ended up out of Chicago.
Okay.
Was actually through graduate school at Cornell, and got that job in Memphis.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what led you to starting Iconic Presentations?
It's a weird story how that all occurred. When I worked for Hilton, of course, I got promoted a couple of times, and I ended up becoming a vice president of brand marketing for Homewood Suites by Hilton. At the time, I think they had 30, maybe 35 hotels.
Yeah.
So I had probably one of the best times of my life helping grow that brand.
Right, that'd
I had
be crazy.
great leadership, and my team. We had a very small team, so when you're that small, you have to wear a million hats. But it was fun for me, and so I did that. But what was strange is every year we would have a general managers and director of sales conference where they brought all the hotel brands or hotel employees together. And for Homewood, I would always have, since I was in marketing, I'd have to get up and talk about what we're doing from a marketing standpoint, particularly, around, segmentation, promotions, and all that stuff. But I would get such a, I guess you would say, super positive reaction.
Nice.
From the audience,
yeah.
And I would be talking about stuff that I'm like, you guys are excited about this stuff. And so what ended up happening is, of course, they would hire keynote speakers, and there was this gentleman who was so good. His name was Keith Harrell, and he talked about attitude is everything.
Okay.
And so he's no longer with us. He rest in peace. But he got up on stage, man. He was fantastic, too. And so what ended up happening was when they rated everything at the end of the conference, you fill out your surveys and they got the feedback. My rating was higher than his.
Oh, man.
And I was like, how can that be? But what was so cool is that I felt like, you ever like something in you, like you see something, like, wow, I think this might be my thing.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and I kind of, when I was watching him, I'm like, man, I want to do that. And so I called him. And I was like, Keith, man, I love what you do, but could you? So he pretty much kind of became my mentor, took me under his wing.
Wow, that's awesome.
Kind of showed me the ropes and everything. Unfortunately, he collapsed during therapy after a surgery.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so he died very quickly. But he made such an impact in the speaker industry because he was out there before it became really popular like it is today.
Right.
So a lot of people that back then, they know Keith Harrell. He was fantastic. And so that's what happened. And I started getting gigs and, you know, and then when I decided to leave Hilton to go full time.
How was that decision? Was it a scary one?
It was kind of scary, and I think I probably bit off more than I could chew because I moved too, because I had been to Minneapolis a couple of times. I really liked the city. Talk about cold. But they had a lot of corporations there that I could tap into and do some, and it worked pretty well. I had made a pretty good reputation in the hospitality industry too. So when I left, you know, I would call, you know, and say, hey, look, you know, I got my own thing now.
Got some connections.
And so they kind of helped me. The industry was very supportive and helped me get started off. And so, you know, I started building up, and then, you know, 2009, it was crazy years, and, you know, so speaking is a very cyclical kind of thing, unless you're like a super famous kind of person. But I hung in there. I love doing it so much, even during the down times, you know. But now, you know, I also work for another organization in Pittsburgh called the Advanced Leadership Institute. So that company provides me like a foundation because I got two boys. Yeah. So I got to make sure that we all have medical insurance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it gives me a stable, but so the speaking is on top of it.
Nice.
So it works out. It worked out well. Just the speaking is, like I said, you can do it. I'm not saying it can't be done. Doing that alone, but you know, I've added some other stuff like workshops and training and stuff like that. So it works well for me.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody has to figure out what's their formula and what works best for them. But I think having that stable income kind of helps reduce the level of stress for too. Yeah. So
no, I can completely understand that.
That's just real talk there.
Well, I can really relate to that because. So out of college, I started working at Ace Sign Company, which Todd, who's on the board, he was there today. I started working. They gave me an internship, and halfway through the internship, they hired me. Well, while I was there, we got this. So going back just a little bit, I had started teaching myself graphic design in high school because I was into video games and just I was making like avatars for our video game people and all, you know, all that stuff. Man. And then I kind of got into photography, and then I got into video a little bit, and I was just playing around with it. But when I was at Ace, we got this project where we built the Super Bowl letters that were unveiled on Times Square. So I had been doing a little bit of video, and they asked me if I wanted to like document the building of these. So I started just with a little handheld camera and a GoPro, and I was creating this video, just filming all the building, all the stages. I was doing national account management, so I would just take little breaks and go film. And then I put together this awesome video of building these letters. You know, it was such a big job for us at the time that was getting so much recognition. You know, they justified spending the time on it.
Right.
And then Ace had a party where they invited out all these business people, and you know, the mayor and all these people were there, and they played my video on a big projector for everybody. And so many people came up to me and they're like, I think you missed your calling. Like, this is what you need to be doing. Like, and I was just like, man, that was really fun. You know what I mean? And at the same time, you know, social media is getting big. And I kind of recognized where social media was going with video, because people were just starting to really post videos on social media. So that was kind of in my head. And then my dad got diagnosed with cancer, and he battled cancer for a couple of years. And at the end, I took a leave of absence from work to take care of him. And then my routine every day was work. And then his house was right by where Ace is now. So I'd leave there, go to his house and hang out with him for like an hour or whatever it was. And then go home. Well, when he passed away, I was just like, I need to change. Like my routine was just so, like he was involved in my daily routine.
Yeah.
So I went back and, apologized to him because they were nice. They gave me a leave of absence and all that stuff. So I felt bad, but I just apologized to him and just said, I need to change. I'm going to try to do this thing. And started my own business and thought I was going to just be producing videos for businesses. But it quickly became like, well, what do I do with this video? And I'm like, well, post it to your social media. Well, how do I do that? And they're like, I'd help them post it. And how do I get more views? I'm like, well, run an ad on it. How do I do that? And I quickly realized like, man, all these business owners either don't know how to do it, they don't want to do it, or they just don't have the time to do it. So Oopbox quickly evolved into like a full service, option. But yeah, it came out of just kind of doing something randomly that I was like, man, I love this. This is awesome.
See, that's when you if that intersection, I think, of your passion and your gifts, like your talents, man. If you're lucky enough to get those two things together, man, that's awesome. And it's usually when somebody else says it to you,
right?
Like you said, like, you said they told you, that's you lost, you missed your call. You're like, wait a minute, because people will come to me. They were like, man, I think you could be a great speaker. You have a great stage presence. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So it starts like,
well, it's got to feel good to, people to kind of choose you to come speak to their group and inspire their group or business or whatever it is, but then getting there and getting to talk to those people and having their undivided attention to really inspire them and help them grow. That's got to be a great feeling.
It does. It feels great. And I know it's a gift from God, because everybody can't do that. Yeah. I know that. And so
it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And you're doing it for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And to keep people listening to you, you bet, you're using people's time. Yeah. Time is precious. It's a currency that you can't get back. And so I really try to work hard to make sure that the time you spend with me, that it's when you leave and walk away, you say that was really worth it, Yeah. So I hate wasting people's time.
I'm the same way. I feel so bad if I do, or I just missed a dentist appointment the other day, and it ate me up for like a week. You know what I mean? I called him up. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This isn't like me. Yeah, this isn't like me. I'm sorry. I just missed it on my calendar. But wasting people's time is because I know I don't like to have my time wasted.
Exactly. So. Yeah, people are so busy. We're just busy, man. And so anybody that wants to carve out some of that pie, you're like, what do you want me for? What do you need me? So you just want to make sure that time is worth it for them as well as yourself.
Yeah. I've had a couple opportunities to kind of talk to some groups, and the first time I was like, it was just a small group, but I was like so nervous to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I put together too much of a like script. You know what I mean? There was a lot of uhs in it. I had one of my team record it so I could watch it back and see how I did. And I was just like, God. And, I'm judging myself a lot and being hard on myself. The people there actually, all told me it was great. But looking at it myself, I'm like, God, that was terrible.
Because you're going to be the hardest critique of yourself. That's just the way it goes. Do you think that was bad? I'm going to tell you what happened to me. So as I mentioned to you, I left Hilton to do my own thing. I moved to Minneapolis. I had my first speaking gig. And so I wanted to do so well. I did exactly what you said. I wrote out a script.
Yeah.
And I mean, I memorized it word for word. It was an hour keynote, and it was my first one. And I was so excited, that somebody had hired me. I was married at the time, and I remember she went with me. And so what they did is they did it kind of in the round, so I was like on this little square in the middle of the floor, and all of the chairs were around me.
Man, that's a tough first gig right there.
And man, let me tell you what happened. I had memorized this thing to the T. So I get up, they do the introduction. I walk up there. I remember my ex-wife was sitting like right, like in that front row on the side. I forgot everything. It was like my brain just like, I forgot everything. Yeah. And I stood there, and I know it probably wasn't that long, but it felt like
eternity.
I was like, this is bad. I started like, I could just feel the sweat coming on me, man. It was so
Somebody
bad.
Give me a towel.
And then I looked at my ex-wife, and she was like, what do you want to do?
Where's the flashcards?
And then all of a sudden it was like, I was like, well, let me just say something. And eventually it all came back to me. But oh my God.
Yeah. That's how it was
Yeah. I said that I'm never going to let that happen to me again. So I used to memorize about a lot of my keynotes, but I don't do that anymore. Now I just have notes. I still write them all out.
Yeah.
But I read it.
And
I just read it over and over and over. And then I will take like maybe one or two, maybe a sentence from every other paragraph or so. And then that's what I take up on the stage with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your talk today was, about this iconic framework. Mm-hmm. Can you break that down just quickly for people, the 4 parts of it and everything?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to. So I have an affinity for iconic brands. And so like organizations that are able to, sustain and stay in business for a long time. And so I wanted to come up with some kind of way to help organizations and people, individuals, because you can kind of turn it into a person as well. And to see if there was a way for me to come up with a very simple way to describe what companies I think that are iconic focus on. Mm-hmm. And so the quadrants, there's 4 quadrants, and the first one is to be unique, because it's really out of be iconic, and everything else is like be. Yeah. So be unique is the first quadrant, and then that one I talk a lot about your purpose and your why. Why do you exist beyond what you make, do, or sell? What need do you fulfill in society? What makes you stand out? Because I think without that, you're just a commodity. So I think that quadrant is so important to becoming iconic. And then the next one is to be authentic. And that one focuses on, and I know we hear the word, I want to be my authentic self, and authenticity. That word is thrown around a lot now. It's pretty popular. And it covers that, but it also talks a lot about the importance of having empathy, being able to walk in the shoes of your customers and your employees, understanding where they're coming from. Also, being humble, transparent, and things like that in the authentic quadrant. And then the third one is to be passionate. I'm a very passionate person, and so I just believe you can do anything if you have the right passion for it. Yeah. I believe passion is one of those things you can't train for. Either you have it or you don't. And I know a lot of people will say, well, I can train them. No, you can't train a person to be passionate about anything. It just can't. So I always tell people, when you're hiring people, whatever industry that is, you want to make sure they have a passion for that industry. And so if you're in the people business, like I call all customer service people, you want to make sure they care about the people they're serving and the experience that they're trying to create. And then the last one is to be consistent. And this is a big quadrant as well, where I talk a lot about focusing on what matters most. Everything can't be a priority. Right. You got to focus on the right things. But then also underlying that is the importance of never becoming too complacent or getting too comfortable. Because as I always tell people, success can be a barrier for innovation. You just get a look, hey, when you're doing well, you don't think about somebody. There's always a competitor trying to steal your customers. Don't think you're going to be there and everything's going to be wonderful. So I think you always got to be thinking about what's coming next, staying on top of trends, making sure that you're talking to your customers and your employees to make sure, because things shift all the time. We're in a very volatile, disruptive market right now. So I think that change fast, and it requires a different level of thinking. You got to be out of the box, and you got to just stay on top of those things. So that quadrant, I think, is so important. So basically that framework itself And I'm sure people can probably come up with other
Yeah.
items, but I think those are simple. The unique thing, and then the biggest thing is really about the people, because without the right people, having passionate people, empowered people, engaged people, you can't do anything iconic. And then the last thing is making sure you're leading with a innovative lens and future thinking, forward thinking lens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it really resonated with me for a couple of reasons. With what we do, is very social media focused, and those 4 things with content is we really try to get people to understand. Because if you're not iconic, if you're not entertaining or what's the word I'm looking for? If you're not doing that right, if you're not passionate about what you do, if you're not being authentic in your content, then it's going to show through. And then along with that, you have to be consistent with that content.
Absolutely.
And posting regularly and keep putting it out there, even if you're saying the same thing in a different way. Like it's just about that consistency. And then the other reason it really resonated with me is the talk that I've given when I've only given a couple, but it's always about like become the person. And it's how I grew this business. I kind of became known as the social media guy here locally, and I did it through being passionate about it, being consistent. Starting off, I was I was just posting videos about social media, about marketing, tips, different things to look at, different things you can do. And over time, I became known as the social media guy. So anytime someone was like, I need help with my social media, they'd be like, oh, you got to call Andrew. So I try to encourage, businesses and business owners or people in the business to think about it like that. And it's like, become the person. Like you want to be the top of mind person that they think of immediately when they're having an issue or they need something done.
Yeah.
But it really went kind of right along with all the things you were saying. And I was like, man, this is cool.
Yeah. And Andrew, man, I love that you said that. That's the uniqueness, man. If you're in a spot like that where somebody says, oh, I need help with social media, they say, call Andrew, you're winning.
Yeah.
You're winning, but you got to stay there.
Right. And even you talk about getting comfortable. Like I don't post as much content as I used to than I should be. I've fallen off on that a little bit, and I recognize that, you know what I mean? And, it's tough. And like you said, someone's always kind of looking to come along and take your cookies, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not staying on top of your game, then someone else is coming. So, but I've also tried to encourage my team to start thinking about that too. And I'm like, you guys should post content too. I was like, it's not only is it helpful for our business, but it's helpful for your career.
Absolutely.
If you want to leave here someday, you know what I mean? Or whatever it may be. So I've tried to encourage that more to get people to think about it.
That's awesome. And that's where that engagement comes from too,
Yeah.
If they're engaged, they're posting too. I mean, that helps your company, but like you said, it helps them as well. I just think, man, people just really got to understand the team and your employees are everything. The culture that you cultivate is everything.
Yeah.
And so, as you heard this morning, a lot of us have worked in toxic work environments before. Yeah. It is not cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I've worked a lot of jobs for sure. And it's tough too. Sometimes a lot of times our team, people that come on here are, pretty young or fresh out of college, so they haven't worked at these other jobs, so they might not realize what I mean. It could be a lot worse than this. It could be bad. So I try to work on culture and make sure everyone's happy as much as I can. I probably do a better job at it, I'm sure. I'm very hard on myself when it comes to stuff like that. I try to read a lot, and I go to every speaker that we have, and just,
that's good.
Just try to develop myself with stuff like that.
Yeah. Gotta stay curious, man. That's the key.
Yeah.
If that's why I say that I always tell people, you don't want to get the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge is bad. That you know everything, and that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast, because I love one, I'm just busy. So how often do I get to sit down with somebody for an hour and just talk one-on-one? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everybody has a story of how they got to where they were or how they started their business. And I just love hearing those things, and just everyone has something to learn from, you know.
That's true. That's true.
So no, I was super excited about the opportunity to have you on for sure.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
You know, man, this is a blast.
Well, I know you're only on a couple hours sleep, so I kind of feel a little bit bad now. But
no, it's all right. I'm on this green tea. Hopefully, it's holding me up. The only thing I can feel going is my voice a little bit. But no, I'm in the game.
Well, you came out with the energy this morning, so I'm impressed. So what kind of like, how did you think about like coming up with this framework? Like, was it just something you'd been thinking about that you decided to put together? Because your talk last time, you know, it was kind of similar, but I feel like it was different too, quite a bit.
Yeah, I think what I loved about doing this one, I think I talked about the framework. The framework really hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But I think the way I talk about it has.
Okay, yeah.
And so during COVID, because people were in I think a very different headspace, I talked about the framework more as a personal branding thing.
Yeah.
It was really, even though I made it primarily for companies, most of the people that had me come and speak, they were like, can you talk to this about how I can be unique, how I need to be passionate, how I can be authentic, that whole thing. So it kind of flipped it a little bit on its ear. And so my approach, it was a little different. So I'm glad COVID is behind us.
Yeah,
so I can really talk more about branding. But still, the whole leadership thing in there is a bigger part of the framework. Mm-hmm. Because what I've realized is that leadership has such a huge impact on you becoming iconic as a brand or company or whatever. So it works well because I'm so passionate about customer experience that I get to talk a lot about leadership too, because you have to have the right people in place leading the people that's customer facing. Like I said this morning, I'm a huge proponent for customer facing employees because they're really the magic there. But typically the managers that are above, the supervisors above them, have to really understand how to make sure those customer-facing employees are engaged and empowered to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
So I talk more about that whole engagement piece, the employee experience piece. So today was wonderful. And another thing I loved about today was that I had an opportunity to highlight some people here in Springfield.
Yeah, that was nice.
That exemplify iconic, delivery of service and things of that nature. So, talking about Jenny and talking about Bernadette, I think it helped personalize that keynote a lot more than they typically get personalized like that. And their stories are just so inspiring. I was really happy to be able to add them to the keynote.
Yeah, that was a nice touch for sure. When I saw you bring it up, I was like, "Oh, he got some insider information to add to this thing."
Yeah, it was wonderful. I saw Jenny light up when I put that up there, and that's what this is about. That's the thing about speaking. If you're going to speak for you and it's all about me as a I'm the speaker,
right.
I have all this knowledge, you need to listen to me. If that's your attitude, man, you're not in the right thing. It's got to be about the people you're speaking to.
Yeah.
So I go in and every time I say, am I putting together this keynote focused on how to help them? Because it can't be about me.
Providing the most value you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can't be about me. So any chance that I can personalize something like that, that was good.
Yeah.
I really, truly enjoyed it. That was probably my favorite part.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I can't believe I drew her name for the prize. I promised.
She deserved it.
Yeah, I was like, I promise this isn't rigged.
She deserved it.
No, the WOW Award's cool though. I try to go to when we present all those. I've missed the last couple, just conflicts, but it's really cool to see people's reactions. You know what I mean? A lot of times, a lot of times they even cry. You know what I mean? Because I mean, there's several of them are people that are in these positions that are just real basic positions, you know what I mean? That they might not get a lot of recognition.
Absolutely.
And they don't know that what they're doing can affect people's lives as much as it does. But yeah, like Bernadette, for example, the stories we hear are just crazy.
It's crazy. You know, I went to meet her today.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was really nice of you to go do that. That's
I was
cool.
so happy, man. But you could feel, I mean, that whole service attitude, it radiates off of her. I mean, as soon as you meet her, I mean, the smile, the hospitality, she's it, man. McDonald's, they're fortunate to have her.
I know, and we get so many people that submit stuff for her. I'm like, I'm surprised she hasn't been offered another job.
You know what? I'm sure somebody would pay triple to get her.
Yeah, so I know they're very grateful to have her. So it's nice. And you know, last time I think that we gave her the WOW award. I think she got like a bonus or something from them.
Yeah, that's
so
what
that's
I
nice.
understand. Michael told me that. Yeah.
But yeah, I just like we hear stories of, you know, her remembering people's ties and just all these different things that they wear, or if something's changed on their, you know, it's like, geez, right. You remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
So no, it's awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's great is that, you know, sometimes I think companies think that you have to do something big to make a customer right.
Yeah.
You know, to wow a customer. It really isn't. I mean, if you think about Bernadette, it's a consistent, welcoming, happy.
Yeah.
You know, noticing little things. That stuff doesn't cost money at all.
Yeah.
But, you know, from what I understand, people will drive past several McDonald's to go to that one, to just have an interaction with Bernadette. And you know, even in the case with Jenny, she bought, I mean, this is one example. She bought a patient a dark chocolate raspberry bar. I mean, a Godiva bar, and it made a huge impact. And so that's why I talk about the ripple effect. You know, you can you can do one small drop and it can make a huge ripple. Mm-hmm. And those are two examples of people that do that quite well.
Yeah, it was a good analogy because, like you said, like, you know, that your ripple the waves might run into another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely. They're both definitely creating ripples out there. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And just hearing stuff like that has caused us to change, or not change. I change and add to a lot of things that we do. You know what I mean? Like, we had a bunch of different cards printed for like little different occasions, whether they're congratulations or sorry to hear, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That we send out. Like, I opened a bank account at BOS, and like a day later, I got a card in the mail that was like just like thanking me for opening an account, and it was just like, you know, it's just little things like that go a long way. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and that's the key. It's little things done consistently. That is how you win.
Yeah.
It doesn't, one big splash and one big wow, that's cool, but, you know, are you going to do that every time?
Right.
No, you're not. You're about to go out of business. But it's the small, consistent things demonstrating that you care and appreciate. That's it. Even to your employees.
Yeah.
You know, and I always, like I said today, your coworkers and the people you work with, you're customers of each other as well.
Yeah.
And so you treat your internal customers like you treat your external. Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, whenever there's like conflicts or something here, you know what I mean, between people or whatever it may be, I'm just like, I usually sit people down, like, look, we're a big family. Mm-hmm. And in a family, you got to talk things out. So let's talk this out.
That's right. You know what? And you got to do it through dialogue, man, because you can't walk around just letting that stuff fester. It's no good.
It just gets worse and ruins, culture or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, though, you know, staying, like, you know, consistent with that. And, even like just coming up with the ideas. You got to just stay kind of open-minded to where's opportunities at here. And we started doing like our onboarding and changed the way we onboarded because we wanted to amp up that customer service and the experience for a new client to really kind of make them feel great coming on, you know what I mean? So we kind of changed that around. We have like a little welcome box and like all these little different things that are kind of nice.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
That's good. Yeah, all of that stuff matters. And like you said, sometimes you're going to have conflict. It happens.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the stuff you gotta. If you guys gonna work together, you gotta have dialogue. We customers are get unhappy too. You gotta deal with that kind of stuff. So, but if you do it right and you resolve the customer's problem, well, there's research that supports they'll even be more loyal to you.
Yeah. Yeah, oftentimes for sure. The clients you think are the worst or hate you the most, if you can spin them around, you know, one way or another, they almost always are more dedicated to you. Yeah, talk higher of you for fixing a situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was one speaker we had that talked about like the cherry. His whole thing was cherry on top. Mm-hmm. And it was like, what's that extra thing that you're doing? What's the cherry on top of your service?
Right.
That was kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, I like that too. You know, and you could, I always tell people, you could get to this iconic status. If you have to be. That's where the humility and being humble thing comes in, is that you have to be open to feedback. Mm-hmm. Some people don't like feedback, especially when it's negative.
Right.
But I always like to say feedback is a gift. If the customer is willing to share their perspective.
Feedback is a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift. You might not want to open the gift
all
the time.
The lump of coal.
Right. But it's better than a person walking away saying nothing.
Right.
You know, because how many times have you had a bad experience and just said, you know what, forget it.
Right.
I just won't even.
Don't even give them a chance to.
Yep. I just won't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot, for sure.
You've done it a lot. And so I think it if you're doing it right, you want to hear the feedback, even the negative feedback, because most people are going to share the negative versus.
Yeah, it's much harder to get that good review or a negative one.
Yeah, it is, because they'll tell more people in a negative situation.
Yeah,
sometimes they'll tell a few people about if it was a good one. Yeah, it was great. They may tell them, but if it's bad, I can guarantee you they're gonna let some people know.
Yeah, it's that's for sure.
Yeah, we
always with reviews and stuff like that. You know what I mean, trying to help clients manage those or whatever it may be. And,
right.
even ourselves, it's like, it's much easier to get a negative one than a positive one.
Yeah.
Positive ones you almost have to ask for, unless, again, if you're going above and beyond, you're opening up that opportunity to hopefully make somebody want to, I think that's usually where they come from.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for feedback. I think that's good. You should, and if it happens to be positive, that's great. But they might have something negative. Yeah. But I guarantee you they'll appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
Because they may not do it if they're not asked or provoked to say it. So I think it's when they have an experience with you, if you're doing surveys or whatever it is, make sure you do it and then read it and then. Be open to changing things. If you're starting to hear something that's consistent, but you're used to doing something a certain way, and you're like, I don't want to change it. But if you're starting to hear it over and over, you got to be
something.
Like, well,
yeah,
I got to
take the hint.
Yeah, don't keep doing it because it's comfortable.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, you might have to flip some stuff on his head, and that's okay. That's okay. That's how you keep. That's how you stay iconic.
Yeah. You got to be open to change.
Yep.
Does so how many people did you kind of did you have under you when you were with the hotel?
Oh, wow.
Because you obviously have leadership experience.
Yes.
Through that.
When I was at AGM, I don't know how many people were. It was a 220 suite hotel.
Wow.
I had housekeepers, embassy served free breakfast and they had the evening social. So I couldn't even tell you how many employees. It was a pretty big. It wasn't a huge operation, but it was enough employees in there. At least I'm gonna say maybe 75, 100, maybe.
Yeah.
Because the GM I had there, he was a more of a outside GM. He was out, building relationships and all of that. So I was really the one responsible for operations, pretty much on property. And it just
was some of that what you went to school for, or how did
Cornell taught me more theory stuff. Of course, I majored in marketing in my graduate studies.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to tell you a funny story with that. So when I went to operations, when I worked as an AGM, I really didn't use a lot of the stuff that I learned at Cornell at the time. It was more, it was customer service and stuff, making sure that the employees were taken care of, guests were taken care of, all of that. But I didn't really focus on marketing per se.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening though is after working at that hotel maybe a couple of years, because it was a Memphis Embassy Suites, a corporate office was there as well. So a lot of the VIPs that came to corporate office would stay at that property.
Oh, okay.
So there was a lot of pressure.
Get the experience.
There was some pressure,
yeah.
Because if one of those VIPs wasn't happy, I was going to hear it, okay? So it really kept me on my P's and Q's there. But what ended up happening was that a gentleman by the name of Jim Holthauser, he worked at the corporate office, and he was in marketing. And he came to our hotel and talked about market segmentation, personas, all of the stuff that I pretty much had learned at school. And so I was like, this is what I want to do. This is it.
Yeah.
And so I cornered him, and after that, and actually he went to the restroom, and I followed him in there. And I know it sounds really weird. This sounds really weird, but I had a closed audience right there.
Yeah.
And I explained to him what I went to school for and everything. And just coincidentally, Andrew, he had an opening.
Oh, wow.
And I think he was he might have been a VP then, but he was looking for somebody to help with consumer research, brand research for embassies, for all three of the brands. And that's how I transitioned into corporate.
Wow.
It was just timing. And he told me, he's like, "You think you can get your resume to me in a couple of days?" And
that's awesome.
I went on the weekend, and I don't even know how I got in there and slid it in there. And next thing I know, I was gone.
Good for you. You went for it though.
Yep, I did.
Seized the opportunity.
Yep. So
that's part of that's something that I think people get stuck in is like, they maybe want to change, but they don't keep their eyes open or their mind open or their ears open to where those change opportunities even are. Like, you kind of got to be open-minded to, oh, this happened or this person's here. Like, that situation. It's like maybe I try to get a chance to talk to them.
Right. Exactly. You just never, I never would have guessed that was going to happen. So when things like that occur, you just got to jump out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you see it, you got to, because if you miss that opportunity, it may not come back around for a long time, or it may not come back at all. And so I just was like, when I saw him going through his whole presentation, my eyes lit up because I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And it was just, hey, everything aligned, and that was letting me know that God will put stuff in front of you. Hey, look.
Give you the option.
Give you the option. You can let him go back to his office, or you can
follow him in the bathroom.
Right. That's right, Andrew. Yeah. So I was happy that I took that opportunity. It changed the trajectory of my whole career.
Isn't that weird how one little thing?
Yeah, it was. That was a ripple right there.
Yeah. I read a book one time called The Tipping Point.
I remember that book. Is that Daniel Pink?
I can't remember the author's name, but it was like these one little things that, can change the whole trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
That you got to either be ready for or, no, that was a good little book.
Yeah. I think it was Daniel Pink.
You got a book coming out.
Yes, I do.
What's it going to be called?
That was a perfect transition. Yeah. I like that.
I set the whole thing up for this one moment.
That was good. Actually, it is a book called Hidden Hospitality, Untold Stories of Black Hotel, Motel, and Resort Owners from the pioneer days to the civil rights era.
Oh, wow.
So it is a...
What sparked that idea?
It's a coffee table book with photographs and everything. It's man, here's another link. So when I was in graduate school at Cornell, I have a friend, they say, why you always got to say Cornell? Why you always got to say Cornell? Just say graduate school. Yeah. And so they have, there was an organization started there called the National Society of Minority Hoteliers. Yeah. And one of the guys that was on the, I think he was a chairperson on the that ran the organization. His name is Evan Frazier, who I happen to work with now for the Advanced Leadership Institute.
Oh, nice.
So weird. It's just
the connections, man.
It's so weird. And so
did you always stay in touch with them?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so he asked me to. They were having a conference. I think it was their third conference, and he asked me, Calvin, would you do some research on Black hotel ownership from a historical perspective? And so I was like, that's interesting. So, of course, it wasn't much out there. I mean, I was looking at articles and stuff on microfiche. For the people that don't know what that is, it's like
I don't even
film.
know what that is.
You don't know what microfiche is?
I don't.
It's I don't even know how to describe it, but like old periodicals and stuff like that. It's on like a film.
Oh, yeah, I know what
you
you're talking about.
You have to spin this little thing around.
Like a library.
Yeah, like exactly.
I think I've seen it in movies more than anything.
Right. So I put together, and what ended up happening is it became we had to do a graduate monograph, and so it became my monograph. And so I had put together like this 100-page document, and it sat on the shelf for a long time in 2021, because they give you a nice bound copy of it, and I had a nice copy, and so I was putting up some stuff, and I found it, and it was a friend of mine that was at my house at the time, and I walked out of the room with it, and she was like, "What is that?" I was like, "Oh, it's a monograph." At the time, it was called Hospitality Historiography. That's what it was called originally. And she was like, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's about Black hotel ownership. It goes back to like mid 1700s." And she was like, "We owned hotels back then?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so she's like, "Let me see." And when she read some of it. She's like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." And she's like, "Is this a book?"
That's cool.
And that was it. So from that point on, I started, and I found a publisher called Brown Books Publishing, based in Dallas, and they jumped all over it. They did a search, and they were like, "There's no other book out there like this."
Yeah.
So if we can get this done, it'll be major. And it's due to come out in mid-October of this year. We wanted to try to get it out in June, but as you could imagine, getting authorizations for some of those photographs, it was hard.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, but it's gonna happen.
That's
I'm
awesome.
so excited about it. It'll probably be about close to 300 pages. It'll be a pretty big piece.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I have a little more than 150 photographs in there.
Dang, that's awesome. So was most of it done from your?
No, it wasn't even close.
Okay.
It wasn't even close. It had some of the stuff in there, but even the publisher, because I sent them the monograph, so they can get an idea of what I was trying to accomplish, and they were like, "Oh, this is great. Can you get?" I don't know how many more words she wanted me to get. I'm like, I don't know, but we're talking about 3 decades or so later, so there's a lot more out there. But it's so spread out, Andrew. What this book does is it pulls all that stuff together, so it can kind of give you. It's really a chronological walk of Black history through a hospitality lens.
Interesting.
It's a very different kind of concept. So it's not just it's not written in an encyclopedia way, like this is this person, here's his body, he lived, he died.
Right.
Then it's really written like a chronological. You can kind of see each era, because I go through the Harlem Renaissance era. So I mean, it's
nice.
Yeah, it was. I'm really, really proud of it. What is it called? I think might be my magnum opus.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations. It's not your first book though, right?
No, I wrote a little bitty kind of I don't want to downgrade it, but I did write a book called "Fanatically Relentless Customer Service."
Nice.
It's a small book. It's funny. It has me on the front of the cover because I had a guy that drew comic book illustrations, and he got me as a superhero with this
nice.
FRCS on my shirt, and I'm like flying through the sky with a skyscraper
funny.
behind me. So yeah, it was cool. I don't think it's in print anymore, but I got some copies at home.
Nice.
But yeah, it kind of talks. I mean, I didn't have the iconic framework then. This was a while back. So, but it does. Some of the concepts are in there that I still talk about.
How is that process of putting together a book, writing a book? Did you find it
arduous,
easy, or is it
arduous, long?
Yeah.
It's. I think the first book was it was easier because I just was, talking about from my experience and stuff like that, what happened. So that was easier. This book is a research book.
Yeah.
It's a whole different level of writing. And there were days where I was like, I just can't do it. I'm done. But I felt like it was another one of those situations where I felt like I was compelled and selected
Got this opportunity
by the above to do it. Yeah. I hope people will be inspired by it too. Because I mean, I wanted to make sure the book was written in a way to tell a different story. I mean, everybody knows about our slavery stuff and all of that, but I just didn't want to. I wanted the book to inspire hope.
Yeah.
And just really give people a glimpse into another side of us and what we had from a hospitality industry standpoint. 95% of the people in this book, most people never even heard of before.
Right.
So that's why I call it hidden hospitality.
Yeah. I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, that's cool. Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed either, like going that far back.
Yeah. Thank you for letting me share that. It's really important to me. So thanks for the transition.
Yeah. Strategic transition.
That's right.
So October though, you said?
Yeah, mid-October. I think like the 21st. You can pre-purchase it on Amazon now.
Nice.
If you search it, it's already out there.
Oh, fantastic. Mm-hmm. All right, go pick up the book. Let's have a strong launch.
Yeah, that's
get on that bestseller
list. That's right. That's awesome.
Yeah, I always thought it'd be cool to.
Have you ever written a book?
No, I've thought about like trying to. I had a couple ideas that I've thought about, but again, it's just time and, I don't know anything about it. I have like had conversations with AI, just starting one. What I mean, stuff like that. Just kind of. Almost someone to talk to about, just how to do it, how to structure, things like that. But I think it'd be cool to do someday.
Yeah. I mean, your journey, just describing to me how you did it I think that could inspire a lot of people.
Yeah. And honestly, that's kind of what I had in my head, at least for something to try first, you know what I mean? And because it's kind of interesting, like, so my dad, very smart guy, did really well in business for a while and just started getting beat down because he was this killer salesman for a company in Texas, making a bunch of money, like family was living good. This was before I was born. I'm the youngest. They were going out on boats every weekend and had a nice house and all this stuff. Got fired because he was basically making too much commission. You know what I mean? So they were like, where can we save money? So fired him. I think that was his first big loss. And then he came, they came back here, and we lived with my mom's sister, and there was like, what was there? There was 9 of us in that house.
Wow.
So my family had the basement, and, we were there for a little while. So I think that kind of, as a man trying to provide for your family, you're living in your wife's sister's house. So I think that probably, kind of knocked him down a little bit. And then he got another good job doing sales and was doing good at that. Again, kind of got fired for similar reasons, I think. And I was really young now at this point, so I don't know 100%. This is just from kind of talking to my mom and brother. But just kind of kept getting beat down on all these different things. And then finally, just in trying to provide a house for us to live in and a stable life. He just took a state job and was never really happy there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I mean, he was providing. You know, he made decent money. We lived pretty poor for a long time, though. I mean, I didn't even know you could do this, but my parents have declared bankruptcy like twice.
Wow. Man.
So, you know, but a very smart guy, and like, you know, he had some ideas later on, and but he was older and just never really got to execute them. I didn't know the things I know now. I probably could have helped him execute some of these ideas very well.
Yeah.
But he became, I feel like, very negative from all of that. So anytime I would talk about something, it's not that he was discouraging about it, but he would always go into the negatives.
Yeah.
Like, well, this might happen, that might happen. But honestly, what that did was got me in the mindset, and I always say this, prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Yep.
So anytime I do anything, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? You know what I mean? And I can outline the worst things that can happen and try to plan for those accordingly. So it was kind of a curse to him a little bit, I guess, or I don't know if you want to call it a curse, but it kind of taught me to do that, to prepare for that. And, you know, even when we're going on road trips, my wife's like, why do we have a first aid kit? You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, something could happen.
Yeah. That's good, though.
So it's, I don't know, and just some of that, how, I don't know, my stuff that happened there and stuff. I don't know. I think I've just thought of ways to kind of frame that into how I become who I am and the way I think about things, you know what I mean? That could potentially be interesting, I guess, to some people.
Yeah, it could.
But either way, it'd just be fun to do that, and also like kind of honor him a little bit, you know what I mean, in that. So I don't know, someday I might try to work on that.
Hey, that sounds, I mean, I really like that idea. I mean, that's why today in the key, that's why I talked about mindset, you know, making sure you watch your inside voice, and be careful of the narratives that you tell yourself, because that can throw you off your game.
Yeah.
I mean, we're our worst critics.
Yeah.
And so I just think you have to really be careful and mindful of that.
Yeah.
Because it might spiral you into a bad place.
Oh my God, yeah. No, when you said that, I was like, Jesus, that's me for sure. Because I just, you know, I'll start going down a hole like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because even this business, like, I started it, you know, and actually Ryan was my first team member here. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to hire somebody, you know. And then it just kind of just started hiring people, and I never really like had a plan for like, this is where the business is going, this is how many people, this is how big I want it to get. I just kind of started going.
Right.
But with that, my dad was a pretty good mentor from just being a very smart guy, helping me think through things. He was also my biggest cheerleader when I would accomplish things. You know. My brother is a very smart guy, and he's provided some mentorship. But I haven't had like a lot of people like help me, you know, tell me that I could go to with questions about starting a business. You know, just a lot of searching on the internet. So it's always kind of felt very lonely. But that makes me, you know, at times question myself for sure. What I'm doing, is this right? Is that right? So a lot of times I'll just go to reading or listening to people and stuff. And sometimes in reading, I learn I'm not doing something right, or it'll be like all these things you should do. I'm like, holy shit, I'm doing all those.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And be like, damn, I am doing something right.
There you
so
go.
it's kind of,
you go. Sometimes you just need affirmation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So it's. Do you ever do any kind of coaching or anything like that? Have you ever been hired for anything like that?
I've been asked, but man, I don't even know how I can even fit it. I don't even know how I can. I probably will at some point, but right now, I'm gonna hold that for later.
Yeah, get through this book. I
got to get through the book and some other stuff, and then I can probably find some space.
Seems like it'd be something that kind of be a good add-on with your knowledge and what you do and some of your presentations, and you could something that could be done remotely, you know, all over the country. It kind of opens things up a little bit.
That's true. Hey, I might take heed of that. if I could add some more time into the 24.
Yeah. I know. It's so tough.
Yeah.
So, no, that's, well, it's, it was a great presentation, man. I love that. And everything you said, I mean, really resonated again. Like I said,
Thank you.
that first time was
Thank you.
one of the things that got me hooked.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that compliment. As you can tell, I love doing it. So when hearing people, say that they got something out of it, that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
It really does.
What advice would you give to somebody that, might be thinking about like trying to do some of the things you do as far as, becoming a speaker, or think they have something to tell or a way to inspire people, stuff like that?
Wow. My biggest thing, people do ask me that. And the first thing I always ask, do you have a story? Of course. And are you passionate about telling that story? And you got to really love doing this for people.
Mm-hmm.
You really do, because there's going to be some days where you don't feel like, you're like, I don't want to talk right. I just want to,
You've been up since 4:30.
Yeah, right. But I always tell people, listen, you don't have the luxury of, if somebody books you, unless something major happens to you, you better have your ass there, because people are relying on you to show up, and you have to show up every single time.
Yeah.
And be consistent. This is a very small, it seems like it's large, but it's a small industry.
Yeah.
You can blow your reputation really quickly. If something happens and you miss a couple of gigs, it's going to get around.
Oh, yeah.
And once that happens, it's hard to earn that back.
Mm-hmm.
Because, are you going to show up? Is he going to come? That's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
I praise God, and I knock on wood, I have never missed a gig.
Wow.
I'm proud of that, and
how many years has it been now?
Oh,
since
man,
you started,
that was a long. But as a professional speaker, I would say, and even though in some couple of years off here and there, maybe 2005, somewhere up in there. But I took a couple of years off because, because I had switched jobs. But consistent. But even when I kind of tried to leave, people were like, man, can you come out and just speak this one time?
Yeah.
So that's when you're doing something great. And so, but I always tell people this. There are a lot of speakers out there, Andrew. It's a ton of them. And I think it's okay to look at people for inspiration, but don't try to copy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't compare yourself. You want to be as authentic as you can with your voice, telling your story. Because I think a lot of people get stuck trying to, I want to be like that person, or I want to speak like that person. You're looking at their videos. Oh, my God, look what they're talking about. They're so good. That will mess you up.
Yeah.
Focus on your lane, your uniqueness, your authenticity, your passion, and your consistency. That's going to get you there. But first you just truly have to love what you're doing and be you.
Yeah.
Nobody can do you better than you. And that's the advice I give people about speaking.
That's
but
awesome.
You got to show up, man.
Yeah.
Got to show up. Yeah.
That's crazy nowadays too. Like, there's so many businesses that, not besides speaking, that they just don't show up, or they're just busy enough that they like, oh, whatever, like, or don't return a call or whatever it may be. And
Andrew, it's bad, isn't it?
It's frustrating.
It is so bad. I don't know what's happened. It seems like after COVID, people are just like, whatever.
It is too.
You can send emails to people and they just don't respond.
Yeah.
Don't respond. But I'm gonna, I'm sure I've missed people every now and then, but I really try to focus on responding to people quickly.
Yeah.
I just think that's a respectable thing to do. But oh my God, it's amazing how people will not return calls. They don't text back. They don't write back.
You're doing that well.
Or they don't follow up.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. A lot of people don't follow up. You're leaving money on the table. If they reached out to you and you're not, like you say, are you doing that well? Where you can ignore people?
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's like they don't even think about the long-term effects of it, because eventually that's going to catch up to you.
Absolutely.
As some other business comes along and is providing that exceptional experience, again, it's going to take your cookies eventually.
Yeah, exactly. And, because it doesn't seem like, now if you're busy, it may not seem like a big deal, but that funnel, it's dripping. They're losing people drip by drip. Eventually, like you said, you're going to wake up one day, what happened?
Yeah.
Man, you weren't responding to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
little things.
Little things.
All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I really appreciate you coming on. It was great talking to you, hearing your story. The speaking event this morning was awesome. I definitely, if anyone ever has the opportunity to listen to Calvin, go check him out. Where can people find you if they want to book you?
Calvin, Iconic Presentations. That's all you got to do. Yeah, .net. .net.
Okay.
Or you could just put Iconic Calvin.
Okay, there you go.
It'll come up. I'll come up. But yeah, I would love to come and speak to your organization. It doesn't matter if it's 10 people or 1,000, man. I just love doing what I do, and would love to work with you. And I want to thank you, Andrew, for giving me the opportunity to come on the podcast.
Yeah, pleasure to have you.
It's been a joy getting to know you too, and thank you for coming out to support me.
Oh yeah,
twice.
Yeah.
Thank
well,
you.
when we were talking about it being our 10-year, we're like, all right, what are we going to do for speakers, or should we have somebody back? And we started talking. I was like, I think we should have bring Calvin back. I was like, that was. I know that was my first experience, and it was great. So,
right.
No, I had a lot of great feedback, and I'm interested to talk to people over the next couple of weeks and get more of that feedback. Because, there was several people that came up to me like, that was really good. I think that was one of the best ones yet.
Wow,
So
that's awesome.
I was like, you must not have saw him last time.
Yeah.
No, it was great. And thank you for the advice for the viewers. We always, through this podcast, like to try to provide value to the people watching too. Mm-hmm. So I think your story could definitely do that and provide some motivation. And everybody go pre-order that book on Amazon.
All right. Awesome. Thanks again.
Hidden Hospitality.
Hidden Hospitality.
All right.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Andrew.
Thanks, Calvin.